I think most everybody is signed in. So, hi everybody, welcome to Compassion in the Cloud, our Project Wild series, Project Wildlife series. We're really excited to have you here and show you through our Wildlife Center. So our Project Wildlife program is to care for local wild animals. So animals that are native to San Diego. So I want you to think in your head maybe some wild animals that you've seen when you're at the park, or if you've gone to the beach or gone hiking. So anything from squirrels and hummingbirds, owls, hawks, opossums, skunks, um, raccoons, all of those are some of our animals that we might take care of at Project Wildlife. We also have another center that we're going to be visiting next month in our Ramona Center, where we have some coyotes and bobcats and our predator species. So I'm excited to show you around. So you can already see it behind me, Project Wildlife. So I'm going to turn it around the camera and give you a peek at what it looks like. And I am going to do a better job of moving slowly this time. So this is our Wildlife Center. So here is our intake desk for Project Wildlife. So anyone who finds a wild animal that needs help, this is where you can bring them. And we want you to tell an adult if you see a wild animal who is hurt or injured, or maybe a baby wild animal who is left alone and is too young. And we have a 24-hour dispatch center that people can call and make sure if they're not sure if an animal needs help. Sometimes baby animals look like they need help and they don't. So you always want to make sure that a wild animal needs help before you touch them, before you bring them in, just to make sure that you're not taking them here for no reason, right? Because wild animals would much rather be out in the wild where they belong. So what you're seeing here is our intake center, our intake desk. So this is where people are going to come if they find a wild animal that needed help. And if you bring in a wild animal, we want you to keep them warm, dark, and quiet, and handle them as little as possible. We don't want you peeking on them. We don't want you feeding them food or water or anything. We want you to bring them here so that the professionals can take care of them, because sometimes even giving them water can cause them harm. So you want to get them here, and then we're going to ask the person who brings them in to fill out this record so we can find out as much as we can about what kind of animal they are, where they found them, if they know what happened to them. Sometimes people come in and say, oh my gosh, my cat caught this bird, or and then dropped them, or I saw this bird fly into the window and they haven't been able to recover, or this opossum was stuck in a fence. So there's lots of different reasons why we get animals. And also, you can always call our humane law officers, excuse me, and they can come pick them up if you can't safely get them. So what you see me doing is spraying this mat because we want to make sure that we don't bring in disease and make our wild animals sick. So I'm going to wipe my feet in that, and then I get to come on in here. And now we get to meet Carly.
Hi.
And Carly is a vet assistant for our wildlife program. So she has a really cool job to take care of the animals that come in here. And so she's going to give us a little tour. And it's really fun today because people from the public aren't allowed in this building. And even a lot of staff members have worked here for years, haven't ever been in this building because we want to keep it nice and quiet for the wild animals. And we'll get to peek at a few of them, and then some of them we aren't going to get to peek at because they would not be too pleased. Because remember, we want to make sure that these wild animals stay wild and keep that fear of humans so that they can go back to the wild. I don't think I told them what our most important job here is, making sure that those animals go back to the wild where they belong. And so that's our whole job. So Carly, we are in the intake center. So I'm going to let her tell a little bit about what we would do first thing when an animal arrives here at our wildlife center. So thank you, Carly, for joining us.
Absolutely, and welcome everyone. Happy to virtually have you here. Yeah, we'll definitely just get right on into it. Intake wise, we have you guys. Stacy did a great job explaining what happens outside when our intake team is just about starting to talk to people and bring them in. The animals are going to come right over here. If they're not in a suitable box, like if they're going to escape, we make sure we're all set up so we have a lot of really safe boxes that are dark for our animals to go into. And then we provide them with a little towel or cushion in there so they can be as comfortable as possible. We also, of course, have newspaper, anything we can do to make sure the animals have what they need to stay comfortable until we can take a look at them.
And there's different, looks like different kinds of containers for different kinds of animals too.
Correct. Everybody has different needs. All of our patients are very, very unique. So our hummingbirds, they might hurt their wings if they start hitting against hard plastic like these. So we put them in here and we have these nice little soft net caps that we put on top. And that just makes sure that they can stay put and not hurt themselves or do any damage to their feathers since they're so delicate. And then other things like opossums or things might go in these boxes. We have a few different sizes. And then we have our standard cardboard carriers for anything that we just need a quick box to put them in and if they're a little too large for these boxes. All right, and then one of our amazing intake members, this is Sasha.
Hi, Sasha.
So Sasha here helps people coming up to the door with their animals, and she helps ID the animals, and she helps tell us medical team if there's anything significant going on with the animal, if they need attention right away, or if they can wait a little bit if they're stable, and we can handle other animals that might need attention a little bit sooner.
So I don't know if you've ever heard the word triage, which is, I think, is an important part of Sasha's job, is to decide, like she said, to if it's an emergency, if the veterinary needs to see them right away, or yeah, like you said, they can take a little break and maybe de-stress, which is also part of just giving them a little section time to set apart. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Sasha. So yeah, if you ever find a wild animal, you can bring him to Sasha, or you can call, like I said, one of our officers, and they can bring him in if you can't safely do it.
Yeah, and our intake team also does a really difficult job of making sure we educate the public properly with all the different species that we see. So sometimes with babies, if they are good to be with their parents still and don't need to stay with us, our intake team is going to be telling the people who's dropping them off to go ahead and just take them on back if they're in a safe enough location, or they will be telling people to, yes, go ahead and please bring that animal in. We do need to see it. So very important job. It all starts with them. It is wonderful.
Yes, and I also mentioned sometimes if you're unsure, you can call our 24-hour helpline or dispatch line, and they could say, oh, no, that baby bird is fine. Or so that also prevents them from coming here and getting caught by a human and being really stressed. So that's also a great thing to do. And Carly, I just have to show this because it's so cute. We love opossums here. So welcome to Project Wildlife. We are excited to have you in here.
And that was done by Sasha.
Oh, well done, Sasha. She's an artist and an intake specialist. I like it.
So we have a few different sections that we start out on when we bring them in. This is our hummingbird counter. We don't have any hummingbird patients right now, but one of the big important parts of caring for hummingbirds is making sure they stay warm. And we have heat lamps here, and we have heating pads under this towel. We also make sure those are on or off depending on how many patients we have. And they stay here until we can take a look at them, and then we usually transfer them to a room that is a little more quiet and a little more suitable for recovery.
Oh, I like this here. So it kind of shows, is that showing the different ages of the?
It is. So they tend to get different type of food depending on how old they are. And it's very delicate. They obviously grow very fast, but when they're really teeny tiny, like the tip of your pinky, they get 100% bug juice. So it's just bugs. That's all they get. When they get a little bit older, we start to transition them to a formula. So we have part bug juice, part formula. And then once they get to a certain age, right before they're about to fly, they're fully on the formula. And that just makes it so we can keep caring for them long term, but they get the nutrients they need when they're tiny, tiny babies. All right, we can come on over this way. Any other animal coming in that is able to come in the building is going to go on these shelves. And we do have heating pads under these shelves as well. We also have this really cool little card system. And that just tells us, that's intake's way of telling us if the animals need to be seen really quickly or if they are stable and can wait. We do try to get to them, of course, as soon as they come in, but sometimes if we have a lot of babies, a lot of animals coming in at once, like in the springtime and in the summertime, we have to make sure we're prioritizing appropriately.
And I didn't tell you outside, but I'll mention it a couple times, but it is about, so it's a little quiet in here. I think I looked this morning, we have about 103 wild animals in care right now, but it is the start of baby season. So that means we are going to have thousands of animals coming in because baby animals they sometimes get orphaned from their parent, or sometimes, like I've talked about, people bring in baby animals that maybe don't need to be brought in, and they're actually like bunny napping or hummingbird napping. So you always want to make sure that they need to come here first, because mom in the wild is the best caretaker, we promise. So even though we're really good at it, but yeah, so this is like kind of the calm before the storm, as they say. It's going to be be really, really busy soon with lots of baby animals coming in.
Yes, very true. And now to help with a lot of those animals, Miss Stacy already mentioned the humane law enforcement officers that we have, and they are available 24/7, or at least we have a resource center that can be contacted 24/7. If an animal comes in when we're not here, our medical team isn't here, they're going to go in this room. So the public does not have access to this room, but the nice officers bring in the animals. They set them up with heating. They can set them up with nice blankets. It's just some shelving.
Oh. So yeah, so this is where the officers would leave the animal.
Yeah, and we do have it sectioned off to make sure the animals who shouldn't be next to each other are appropriately placed. And we have a side for healthy, like orphan babies, and then we have a side for animals who aren't feeling too good or look like they might be sick. Now, we're not going to go in this hallway, but we have 4 rooms back in there. 2 of those are our isolation rooms for patients that have a possibility of getting what's called the bird flu. We want to make sure that if they are any kind of sick, that we don't introduce them to a bunch of our other patients. And then we also have our quarantine space. So right now we have a raccoon and a gopher snake in those 2 rooms.
And quarantine is they are totally isolated from others. So that quarantine, that big word, like sometimes we have to do that with our shelter pets if they're sick. So it's basically like if you get sick, you don't want to spread your germs to another person. So we want to make sure that's happening with our wild animals and keeping the whole population healthy too.
Correct. And it's quarantine is a little different from isolation in that isolation means they can move on through care once they've cleared that time frame that we set for them. Whereas quarantine, it's usually they have something that can constantly be given to people or to other animals.
Oh.
So like reptiles have salmonella and they can shed salmonella spontaneously and throughout their entire life. So we want to keep them in a room separate for that safety reason. And then same thing with raccoons and skunks, they can carry rabies, and we want to make sure that that stays separate from the population as well.
This is why we have the professionals here. See, I get to learn things every time I'm here as well, which is great.
All right, so we'll take a quick look at our treatment room here. We'll be going in there a little bit later, but we have some patients getting looked at. Dr. O is down on the floor taking out an opossum there.
So that is pretty. I wish my Zoom is not working, people, and I'm very upset about this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Carly, do you want to come tell us what's happening in here?
Sure. So I'm not super familiar with this exact patient. I think this might be a female opossum that came to us about 2 weeks ago. She was very, very thin and she just wasn't doing too well. Again, if this is the patient I'm thinking of, I think she had lead poisoning.
Oh no.
So opossums typically will eat anything and everything they can find that is edible, and that includes stuff that has lead in it. And lead is not good for animals. What happens is it stays in their bones, and then it causes them to get sick and sometimes not make it. So we have to make sure that we can clear them of the lead before they're good for release. Dr. O looks like she's just doing a quick exam right now, making sure the opossum wasn't doing anything like a bad behavior, like constantly walking in a circle, making sure there were no new injuries, and hopefully we can get that little girl out pretty soon.
And I would also like to comment that opossum does not live in that crate while they are here,
Correct,
right?
correct. This is brought to, so all of the animals that got looked at if it's like a part of a recheck, we bring them to this room in their crates, and they usually only stay in here for a few minutes while we look at them, and then we take them right back to their houses while they're here.
Perfect. So you can see Dr. O's making some notes. And then another really important thing is that any animals here, not just being healthy, but they have to make sure that they're ready to survive in the wild. So not just health, but that they, especially if they were here for a long time or came as babies, they have to have those skills, right?
Exactly.
And also, Miss Carly, the opossum is one of my favorite animals since I have worked here. So if any of you see opossums, they are very sweet. They're very, not sweet, like don't go pet them, but they are not going to harm you.
Yeah.
They do really important things in nature.
They do.
So we love our opossum. So be kind to all the wildlife.
That is so true. Yeah, they're very important to us, and they're just so fun to have in care because they all have different personalities. They're usually really good eaters, which is fun to feed them all the different things that we possibly can. And we do have to maintain their diet appropriately while they're in care because we don't want to be giving them junk food. So we are going to be making sure we're giving every species the right kind of diet. And this is what our critical holding room is typically for. So as I mentioned, this critical holding, we have a bunch of different species in here. And we do this, we have them in here because they come in with something that means they need a little more hands-on care and need a little more like watching. We want to make sure we're observing them so they're getting healthy and uh, doing well before we move them on to our animal care. Emma there, so that's my coworker Emma. She's a fellow vet assistant. She is getting that patient out with using a towel. We rely on towels quite a bit here.
And gloves. I
And
like to know. Oh,
gloves.
so what is that?
That is a barn owl.
Oh, there's an owl. Do you see him, friends? Oh, and there the owl goes.
Okay.
So that's the thing. We want to see them really badly, but they don't want to see us. So all the handling is done as minimal as possible, but that's pretty cool.
Exactly. It's kind of like if you have the flu, you don't want your family parading around in your room and talking to you. So
Yes.
that's kind of the same logic with the animals. We try to be really respectful while they're in the healing stage, and then, of course, continuing that respect while they are getting better and getting ready to be released. Along that back wall, which you guys are looking at right there, those are what's called brooders. We can set those to specific temperatures, and they're especially important for baby animals or animals who come in that are really, really cold and need to be warmed up pretty quickly. And we do have a few of those. We have them all throughout the rooms in the back that you'll see. And again, very vital for helping a lot of our wildlife patients.
And then, oh, yes.
See,
Like we keep what, yeah, hoping we're gonna get a peek at something in here, right? So yeah, we never. No, oh, oh
Okay.
gosh, she's so fast.
She is. So that looked like our mourning dove. It is not able to walk right now, but it's doing really well otherwise. And it can walk with help. So we've been doing like physical therapy with it
Oh.
to see if we can build up their muscles and make sure there's nothing else going on because we don't see anything broken or anything hurt in there. We just want to give that moto, or I'm sorry, the mourning dove the best chance possible.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then you see even here, like it says, keep voices lowered and door closed for our sensitive patients, because just being here is really stressful. Just
Yeah.
being in our presence, being in this building, a wild animal is not normal for them, right? So yeah, so anything like this is just causes stress,
Yeah.
and we want to reduce that as much as possible. So that is why I don't get to go in that room. We don't get to go in that room to try to peek at these amazing animals. But
Exactly.
yeah, so everything is for the best interest of the animal.
It's true. And so, like cats and dogs, they grew up with people. So they're not usually scared of us. And if they are, we get to work with them. We get to teach them to trust us. But wild animals are never going to be like that. We want them to stay wild. We don't want them seeing us as resources for food. And when they're scared and here, we want to make sure they're healing appropriately. So we just have to manage their stress as best we possibly can.
Perfect. Are we going back in there? Or we
No,
have about 13 minutes. Okay.
yeah, we can keep on moving on. We have a couple animals to go see back
Okay, perfect.
their hallway. But I do want to point this out as well. So this is our way to organize critical holding. And now you guys can see all these four-letter words. These are actually what's called alpha codes, and they mean different animals. So if you look at VIP right here, that means Virginia opossum. Up here, we have what we say is Wagyu, but it's Western gull. So we have our way of identifying animals pretty easily. The numbers next to their names are their personal patient codes. And then we have exactly what they're dealing with and why we need to be cautious around them. So we know either not to handle them or to handle them very gently, or to, plan a certain care line with the vet.
And my friends, what I notice about this is one of the ways, this one was caught by a cat. This is a glue trap that someone might have put out for like mice or rats. And then we've gotten a kitten caught in a glue trap. We've had eagles and hawks get their wings trapped because they see free food and they go to get it. Hook injuries. This is from fishing hook. So 1, 2, 3 of these I see are all because of human causes and things that we've done. So, well, I mean, the cat is our cat. We didn't make our cat catch them, but those are things that too we want to pay attention to, friends, and that's our trash and our litter and throwing away fishing line. Never, ever, ever, we have to do this again because we're going into an even different area. Never, ever using glue traps, ever, ever, ever. Please tell your parents that they are dangerous to the whole food system, right? Because yeah, so we only have about 10 minutes, so we got to get
cool. I will zoom through. All
yeah.
right, so here's our other isolation. We use this for seabirds,
okay.
so like ducks and other things that come in. We also have our raptor room right here, and this is where all the raptors go. We only have a couple patients in there, but as you can see, it links to the outside, so they get to feel the fresh air, and they also kind of get a little more conditioned to what the outside weather is doing for when they're ready for release. And this is kind of their pre-outside. So we do move them to outside enclosures after they've been in this room.
So kind of as you, like we talked about, they need to be able to survive outside. So maybe first they're in that tiny incubator and then they get into a bigger cage where they can start flapping their wings, and then they get even into a bigger flight cage outside. So that's important part of their process as they're going through each step of care. So that, you know, and also even like just a squirrel, we don't want to just put food in a bowl. They have to be able to show us that they can find food, right? So that's part of making sure that they're ready to go back home to the wild.
So this is our bird one room. Or nursery. It's kind of two in one. Just like our raptor room, there is an opening, we call it the garage, where all of our songbirds are. So we're not going to go over there because they're a little more delicate and they're going to be pretty scared of us. But this is the perfect spot to have them before we can put them in larger areas outside before they get to go release.
Sorry, I was trying to get a peek at the birds and I lost Carly.
But I do have to do a little quick exam on a couple of our recent intakes. I think you guys might like this one. Casey, do you want to get a look at them?
Oh.
So these are rock pigeons, or just baby pigeons that you might see their parents out walking around. I'm just going to do a quick once over and make sure that they look really good. They're going to be really excited to see me because they think food when they see people. They're very, very loving. They do grow out of that, but we want to make sure everything is done appropriately so they don't see us as food for too long.
So I'm sorry if I missed it because I was looking at their cuteness, but why are they here? Why did they come in?
They unfortunately were brought in by a friend of a friend of a friend who found them.
Okay.
So we couldn't locate their exact nest. They were very healthy when they were brought in. They were just here because the people had picked them up and thought, you know, maybe they needed to be moved. Even though the parents were doing a really good job of taking care of them. So they're
see, I'm trying to eat Carly's what?
He's trying to feed. So they really love anything that moves right now because they think it's going to be food. And this is exactly what they, when they're born and their parents move around them, this is what they do to their parents. They just are trying to eat right now. Looks like they're really healthy. I don't see anything on them that is making me concerned.
So sometimes they just get brought in because maybe they, you know, like got separated from parents. But what I've learned from working here is that a little baby bird on the ground does not always mean that they need help. Sometimes birds are learning to fly from the ground up. So again, which is why it's like always find out or maybe call, look at those wings. So they're still growing their feathers in, right?
Still growing their feathers. They're going to be here with us for quite a few weeks until they get all their adult feathering and we know that they can eat on their own in the wild. Again, they won't be doing this forever. This is just a very natural instinct that baby pigeons have. And I'm only doing this because I'm a professional, so I know they're not going to keep doing it. And I'm wearing the gloves. We want to make sure we're wearing gloves when we're working with the animals. But yeah, they were just unfortunately brought to us, even though they didn't need to be, and we didn't have a way to reunite them with their parents.
So yeah, so we do sometimes try to reunite with moms and families if possible. But it's amazing. What I think is fun is you all know what pigeons look like, and you can see this is a far stretch from what they end up looking like, right? So you can see, and even here you can see the cool, I think that's an ear hole.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, you don't get to see that when they have all their feathers. So I don't know, they're moving around pretty quick, but that kind of little red dot behind their eye is their ear hole.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, you don't get to normally see that. It's underneath. I know there's other ones like that one's getting fed.
Yeah, and they're just
very
like
cool.
strong enough to be standing up, which is really fun. Actually, I'll put them.
Oh, there we go. And like you said, they can make that whatever temperature is needed. And this one's nice. At least they have their sibling, which always makes me feel better when they get to stay together. And they're like, well, darn it, we didn't get any food with that one.
I feel bad, but I just had to do a quick once over. And then we're going to take a peek at another pigeon that's a little bit older. I'm not going to shake this one out, but let me see. Oh, there
he is. So you can see the change already. Look at that. The growth in feathers.
Yeah, they still have that baby talk, and they still are really interested in trying to get food from us. But they are starting to get those adult featherings. They're going to start growing out of that desire to see us as people who can give them food. And then we can definitely get them outside to.
And then, like you say, they start getting fresh air. And then outside, we have giant flight cages where they can really, really fly and spread their wings. And we even have some uh, out there for ducks where they get a little pool. Okay, good. It looks like we are ready to see our next animal.
This is our kitchen real fast.
This is our kitchen.
Where we just prepare all the food. We do keep mealworms and fruit flies in for a lot of animals that need it.
I know, and you have to make salads for some animals. So again, like just like with our shelter pets, and every kind of animal eats, dogs eat different than cats, than rabbits. So same here, where they have to know, be experts and learn all sorts of things. Hi, now we have special guest, Dr. O.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. O. So I'm going to be taking out some baby opossums right now so we can make sure they're all looking healthy, gaining weight, and then we're going to mark them so we can tell who's who.
So she was just mentioning, sorry, I'm not even going to talk. Oh my gosh, you guys, opossums are the cutest. This is why I never want you to be, if you've seen opossum, they just open their mouth real wide and show you all their teeth to try to be scary, even though they're the ones who are scared. So they're just doing that to say, please leave me alone.
Yes, opossums are amazing animals. They're also very, very cute babies.
So I'm sorry, I know you probably can't talk us out, so maybe
No, that's okay. We're okay.
if you can talk louder, because I don't know if they can hear you,
Sorry.
because you're so nice and quiet.
Yes, so we're just taking a look at them, making sure that they all look healthy. These are really, really great looking babies. And again, marsupials or opossums are marsupials. So like kangaroos, they are carrying their babies in a pouch. And they're North America's only marsupial, which is really, really cool. A lot of people are kind of scared of them, but
Look how cute. How can you be scared of that?
they're
Come on.
so important to our environment.
Yes, opossums are one of our, they eat, can eat thousands and thousands of ticks and fleas every season. So that is helpful for humans. That's helpful for your pets. And there they go. Oh my gosh. And so I see those little tails curling up, Dr. O.
Yeah.
And there's another, oh my gosh, you got to keep going. So
I know. Never ending.
Never ending in there. Exactly. So I feel like that little pouch right there might feel like mama's pouch.
Exactly. Yeah. So we try to make sure that they're kept really cozy and snuggly because they really want to be in mama's
Oh,
pouch.
gotta check and make sure there's
Make sure there's no one. Mama can have up to 13 babies.
13 babies. And do you know what my favorite is? After they're out of that pouch, and you can have your teachers Google this for you, is they go for a piggyback ride on mama's back. And there's nothing cuter. And so if and it's a hardworking mama. So here we go. We got to keep doing our feet to make sure we're keeping clean. And all right. So I think we're going to get to see something really fun, because I don't know if any of you noticed, but one of them looked like they had a purple tail. And that purple tail is not natural, obviously. So, oh my gosh. Hello, cute things. So, but they do that for a very important reason, which Dr. O is going to tell us about. So, and again, if anyone's having trouble hearing, just let us know, but I want to make sure we're getting all the information and getting cute views.
Absolutely. Yes. Let me know if I'm talking too quietly. Typically, we try to whisper when we're working with animals, but for you guys, I want everyone to hear what I'm saying.
Although they're always so tricky, aren't they?
So, so we do have some non-natural markings on them. As you can see, this one down here has a bit of purple on them. And this is what we do to make sure we can tell them apart. So we use these animal markers to put color on their tail. You can see how they use that tail to curl around.
So so that word I know is prehensile. So are they prehensile? Could this little thing hang from a tree?
So at this stage, yes, they could. When they grow up and they become adults, they're actually too big to fully hang from their tail, but they will use their tail to actually balance when they're crawling along fences or in trees. And then the females, when they're getting ready to take care of their babies, they will use their tail and collect leaves to kind of line a den, which is really cool.
Fun. They pick up leaves with their tail and make a net just like a bird would collect for their nest. Whoa, okay, there it is. Carly was like, good job. We just had someone went potty. So, we'll just look over here.
Carly's gonna help me.
It's still going.
And color.
They got well fed this
They got
morning.
well fed. So this is Again, you should not ever do this to a wild animal. And why is it important to be able to tell them apart, Dr. L?
That's a great question. So because all of our animals.
Oh, and then we go in here because we are done.
This is a nice warm towel too,
And it's
right out of our.
warmed towel. Oh, they have a towel warmer. I highly recommend those.
Looks like purple and orange. So yeah, so we mark these little guys when they're in our care so we can make sure we're tracking the health of every individual animal. So like when you go to the doctor and they know who you are, they might look at your file. For us, obviously, these guys all kind of look the same. So we use these markers to kind of act as our medical record so that we can track them as they move through care, make sure they're growing up, gaining weight appropriately. And over time, these little colors, looks like orange, will fade, as you can see. So we just want to.
So yeah, already fading. It's hard to tell some of them. So yeah, so like if, for example, because they regularly are going to weigh all these animals, and so if one isn't gaining weight at the same rate as another one, maybe that is a concern, and then the Dr. O would want to find out why that's happening, or see if they're not feeling well, or what's going on.
This one's look like it was just blue.
Okay.
And so we do have to keep track of which colors we are. It's hard, we don't want to duplicate colors. We end up having a bit of a rainbow happening.
Yes, because you have to, and then you can see the notes right there. I don't want to touch things. You guys, I really just use this virtual tour as an excuse for me get to come in here because I don't get to do this normally either. So thank you all. Okay. Very cool.
Happy to.
And so the really interesting thing with these babies, so you can see they're pretty calm in my hand. They're not really trying to get away from me. And it's because as babies, they haven't really learned yet what to be scared of. So part of what we do when they come into rehab is make sure when we release them, they act like a wild animal. So when you encounter an opossum in the wild, they should be scared of you. They don't want to be touched by anyone. They want to just go and do their normal opossum lives. So we do try to make sure that as they grow up with us, that they're making those connections of who to be afraid of so they can survive in the wild.
And that's probably a very different task or job when a baby comes in versus like the adult opossum that you had. That adult opossum knows, like, I don't like you.
Exactly.
I don't want to be around you. And I know that you are I should be scared of you. But these babies are like, oh, look at these people giving me food. So so it's very different.
Yeah. And that's why, if people sometimes try to keep, baby animals because they think they're cute, we really don't want that because it can be really hard to teach these little guys how to be wild animals. And so when they're kept by members of the public, they might not learn how to be wild, what to do, how to survive when they're out there on their own.
And friends, I'm sure one of my favorite facts about these opossums is I know probably you've heard when they, so first they might, like I said, show you that big, all their big scary teeth if they feel nervous. And so, yes, you can do a little exam and show up. And they have sharp teeth, but they don't want to use them. No. They're just, they said, I just want to look real scary and go,
those teeth, these are beautiful looking
and they might
teeth.
kiss. Yeah, so she's growing up big and strong.
Yeah.
But if they're really, really scared, I'm sure you've heard this in nature, they can play dead.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And their heartbeat slows down and they can play dead for up to 5 hours, right? Oh my gosh, look at that full belly.
Yeah.
As you can even see, the females already have little pouches on their belly. So you can see right here, it's kind of hard, it's kind of small, but there's a little flap of skin in there.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's really tiny, but let me.
She's like, I promise it's there.
It's here.
Oh, this little guy. Thank you girl, for letting it.
Right there.
Look at that cute little nose, too. Yeah, so like you said, Dr. O said, they are our only marsupial in all of North America. So that's really pretty. And you can see his tail immediately started wrapping. So that's just natural for them. Well, that was pretty cool. I didn't know we did that with those markers.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. Does anyone have any questions for the veterinarian while we're here? I know we're running a little late, but we're happy to stay on. We have one grand finale animal to show you. So you can stay on if you can, please, and we'll record it as it is being recorded. Does anyone have any questions for our veterinarian or our vet assistant while we are here? Don't all, okay. If they come up with one, Dr. O will find you, but
Absolutely.
they're like, get those camera back on those opossums because they're the cute. So again, with all of our wild animal friends, we also do education just because we want you to know about their important jobs in nature, and they have just as much right to be here as we do. And so if you see them in your neighborhood or in your canyon or your yard, please be kind. Please leave them alone and let them do what they're supposed to do. And if they need help, now you know where you can bring them. And we've had glue traps problems with opossums, so avoid those glue traps. They're what we call nature's little garbage men because they are happily eating our rotten fruit, and like we said, trash can. They got one that got lead poisoning. They will try anything. So we hope these all have a happy, safe life. And will they all be released at the same location? So they stay together,
Yes.
or?
Yeah, so we do release them together because they're babies and they came in.
Sorry, it's closer now.
Because they're babies and came in without a territory, we can release them in any suitable location.
Okay.
So we try to just pick the safest location for them, not a lot of cars, not a lot of dogs that can interact with them. And then they all get released when they make their weight, when they're ready to be out on their own.
And will they like say see you later and split up and live by themselves?
Usually
or-
they're pretty solitary
Okay.
animals. So obviously they like to be together when they're babies. As soon as they get a little older, they just want to be on their own until they find a mate.
Oh, and then we get more babies. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was such a treat. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. All right. So we do have one very special visitor to see. So like we've said, our goal here is to release these animals back to the wild where they belong. And that is what we want for we're stepping again, for every wild animal that comes through here is for them to get back home. That is our main goal. But sometimes that is not possible. We've had animals come in here who have been too habituated, which means they're too used to humans. And then we've had some that maybe the injury prevents them from being able to survive in the wild. And that is the case with this guy that you're going to meet. His name is Chuck. So he gets a name because he's what we call a wildlife ambassador. So we're going to so everywhere we go. So we got to make sure we're staying nice and keeping everybody as healthy as possible. So this is the case with Chuck. He's not able to be released back to the wild. This is Chuck, and he is a Western screech owl. Chuck is very used to being on camera. Well, he used to be. And so I want you to take a good look at Chuck and see if you notice anything about him that you think would make him not be able to go back in the wild and maybe hunt and get food. So does anyone notice anything? You can type it in the chat if you think you know the reason why Chuck wouldn't be able to go back into the wild. Anyone? Or a teacher can even I don't think you can unmute yourself, so never mind. So, all right. Well, you can think it in your head. So, do you want to talk about Chuck, Miss Carly?
Sure, happy to.
Or Ashley, anybody? Yeah.
Yeah, so Chuck here has been with us for a really long time, and he came to us years and years ago. Now, I think what Miss Stacy was hinting at was there's something missing on Chuck's face. And it's right on his one side. I can't get.
Yeah, we
too
don't want to
close.
point at poor Chuck.
We don't know how well he can see, but
Oh my gosh.
obviously that side he can't see at all. So he had to have his eye removed a long, long time ago because we think he either hit a window or he hit a car or a car hit him. We don't know exactly the circumstances, but that's our best guess. And luckily, he was able to be saved. He had fairly minimal injuries at the time, but the eye was not. And because this was so long ago when we were we knew we can save him and make him feel better. We decided to keep him as an ambassador animal for our program. And he is a wonderful, wonderful ambassador. As you can see, he's really used to people. He does stay in this office with a few of our doctors that he loves. And he gets to hang out with Miss Ashley here and some of his other human friends. And he also, of course, gets to meet a lot of new people too. And you guys can kind of see him like looking up and looking around a lot. It's because we are in an office that sound is echoing, and he's trying to figure out exactly where our voices are
Ooh,
coming.
because they use what? What is their hear? They have great hearing, right?
Really good
Like
hearing. So
amazing
it's
hearing.
triangulate. In fact, everything about owls are kind of meant for them to be really good predators. So the shape of his face, you see those little tufts on his head? Those are not ears. Those are actually just special feathers that help funnel the sound into his ears. And the really cool thing about owls is their ears aren't on equal parts of their head like ours are. One is a little higher than the other. The other one's kind of lower, and that again helps triangulate the sound of the prey that they're looking for.
And so yeah, so and then eyesight, I know they can spot some from so far away. So having
Really,
that
really good eyesight.
2 eyes is really important for him to be able to dive and or fly down and get his food and catch it. So he wouldn't necessarily be able to survive in the wild. And I don't know if you guys can see, I mean, just how tiny he is. When I'm getting up close, it looks a little bigger. But yeah, look at Ashley's hand next to him. Her hand is bigger than Chuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, he is a tiny guy. So what would Chuck eat in the wild? What would he be?
So Chuck is a type of owl who can eat anything from small reptiles to small mammals to even bugs. So if he found like worms or anything that he really liked, like maybe there were some worms in a tree or in a log, he could even eat those or take those back to the babies if he ever had babies and feed them the bugs. But typically it's anything they can catch that's small enough for them to be able to eat. So really anything they find that is small, they will try to eat it, just the species
And
themselves.
catch with those amazing
Exactly.
talons, right?
Yeah, and now the big owls that you guys might see at nighttime, the great horned owls or the barn owls, they're going to be more going for the larger rodents or the larger mammals. But Chuck here, his choices are pretty limited.
He's so tiny, exactly, because he has tiny.
Yeah.
And owls eat the whole. Like if they got a my little mouse, they would eat the whole mouse at once, right? They swallow it
Correct.
whole.
Yeah.
Remember, I don't know if you guys haven't in school have done owl pellets and dissected them, but it's pretty cool because bones and everything um, come out at the same time. So, was there a question, Miss Laura? I didn't see all of it if it was there. Okay. Oh,
Oh, no.
did you, I'm sorry, I think I'm trying to see it. Okay, what happens to the animals that are too sick or too hurt to get better? That does happen sometimes. So Miss Carly, do you want to speak about that? And while she's speaking about it, I'm just going to show Chuck because who else, why don't we want to just see Chuck?
Sure. So sometimes when we have animals come in here that can't do well in the wild and that are too hurt, we do help them just by making sure they're as comfortable as possible. And then, we make sure we give them the opportunity to get better. And if they can't get better, then we do make sure they have a nice way to.
So it's called, so like we would euthanize them, which is, yeah, so that is when they get a medicine that makes them, puts them to sleep. And it's very peaceful. It doesn't cause them pain. Because as you can imagine, especially for wild animals, it's, there's so many things that need to go right for them to be able to get back in the wild and survive. And sometimes when someone brings an animal here and they've been hit by a car, maybe they're already too injured, or we go, oh my gosh, that would take a year for this animal to get better and their wing to get stronger. And we don't want to make a wild animal sit here for a year. So there's lots of important just factors that go into that decision. And I think we actually have one of the highest release rates.
We do.
Which is wild animals coming in and the most amount of animals going back out is it in the country or am I just or in our state? We don't want to make claims that aren't true.
It is
But
one
we
of the
do have a
highest
high
in the
release.
country, one of the highest in the country. But because that number can vary, that's not something we typically track or use as like something we would talk about too much, just because it's not something that we can track super easily. But it is one of the highest in the country, which we're really excited about. And yeah, like Miss Stacy touched on, we do call our process here humane euthanasia because of how easily we're able to transition the animals from being in pain to no longer being in pain.
So yeah, so everything is made with the best, every decision is the best interest in the animal, and we want them to be out in the wild if they can. And so, yeah, thank you for asking that, because that is a
Yeah.
tough part of this job, because with wild animals, it's really sensitive. Also, I just want to point out amazing ability of Chuck's neck right here and how much he is turning his head. And it's not a full 360 degrees, like a full circle, but it's pretty darn close, right?
Yeah,
It's like almost 3/4, I believe.
almost, yeah.
Yeah, so if he so if he sees something here, he could turn his head whoop. Oh, my finger's not all the way around to here.
The noise.
Look at that. Oh my gosh. So pretty impressive.
Do you know why they're able to do that?
No.
It's because they have an extra vertebrae in their neck that humans don't have, so it allows them to swivel their head in a much
Very
further
cool.
motion. Yeah.
Oh, and I think I remember something else, which is their eye, like with our eyes, like if you tried right now, you can move your eyes side to side. You can do that in your classroom. He can't move his eyes side to side. He has to move his head to move his eye. So that's also, so it's like fixed in his head in the same place. So that's also an important part of why their neck probably has that cool feature. So they're all made, all those adaptations that you might be learning about in science. So thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Chuck. Bye, Chuck. He sees that hand. So I know we've gone over time, so I appreciate those of you who are able to stay with us and keep learning, but it's so cool in here. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Carly, for joining us very much.
This was so fun.
Yes, and I want to say a thank you too, so we'll just stand together. So thank you very much, and remember that it is wildlife baby season, so we are doing a baby shower, and we have a cool link on our website where you can see what our animals need to be taken care of, because right now we're going to go from about 100 animals to hundreds of animals, so
Very soon.
and thousands. So wildlife Project Wildlife takes care of over 10,000 wild animals every single year. So thank you for your support, thank you for learning about us, and thank you for caring about wildlife out there. So we appreciate
Thank
it.
you, girls.
Bye. Thank you.